Many thanks for coming to this unique sports and entertainment press conference here at London's Dorchester Hotel. Famous surroundings for famous faces as we bring you cinematic legends and a selection of the cream of Britain's boxing talent. We're here to celebrate the opening here of the new fight film Grudge match, and we look forward to a fabulous year ahead for our fighters. It's been a pretty good 24 hours for Warner Brothers. After Gravity... We'll let Robert take his call. After Gravity leads the way at the BAFTAs, 11 nominations, congratulations to them. And it's a pleasure for all the boxers and the media here to have two Hollywood icons, both synonymous with the fight game after starring in surely two of the most memorable boxing movies of all time in Rocky and Raging Bull. We at Sky love the cinema, and we at Sky Sports are proud of our long association with boxing since the early 90s. The sport's often chosen by Hollywood to depict those dramatic life journeys. It transcends to the screen in a way no other sport can. I could have been a contender, Marlon Brando's superb On the Waterfront, Anthony Quinn's Requiem for a Heavyweight, the terrific documentary When We Were Kings, Christian Bale's marvellous performance in The Fighter, The $1 Million Baby, Cinderella Man. The list is endless. Rivalries and grudge matches have of course lit up our sport. We've been enthralled with the trilogies like Segal and Graziano, Ali and Frazier, Morales and Barrera, Gatti and Ward. Who could forget the hatred between Hagler and Leonard, Ben and Eubank on our shores, and most recently Froch and Groves. George here, one of a selection of our brightest young sportsmen, so many who I know were inspired to box by what these actors brought to the big screen, our homes, our childhood. Warner Brothers' The Grudge match stars Robert and Sylvester as fierce boxing rivals who come out of retirement to settle the old score. The Kid and Razor Sharp, whose long feud erupts into the heart of social media and ends up in the heart of a big fight production on Grudgement Day, called by our television colleagues across the pond at HBO. A story of what really happens after the highs and lows of a sporting career. The if only I could go back, second chances, stubborn forgiveness, and what fitness and dedication we see in the film by these two astonishing actors. With us, Peter Segal, renowned director from the States. Let's start with you, Peter. What made Grudge match tick? You've always loved boxing. What is it about the sport and these two that made it so special?
Well, I've grown up in what I call the golden age of heavyweights with Ali, Frazier, and I followed the sport my whole life. But I think in 1976 there was a movie that particularly caught my eye and inspired me to go on and try to make that kind of movie. And in 1980, another film came along, also about boxing and a particular person, played by these two gentlemen, 76 and 80. And it was really dream casting that we had to thread the needle. We could not make this movie if we didn't get these two guys here to participate. So it all came together, and thrilled to be here.
Sylvester, obviously the Rocky series was one of the great cinematic stories. Why come back and take on this role? And how do you feel now compared to what you did back in the 70s?
I put Rocky to rest after the last Rocky 6 and Rocky Balboa. I was really happy with it. He said farewell, and he sort of disappears into the distance. I thought that would be it. And then when they said, hey, let's do this film Grudge match, I thought it was going to be a kind of a skit, if you know what I mean. I thought, oh God, I don't want to do it. I was being very precious with what we built up over the years. And Bobby kept calling and like breaking my chops. Come on, you must do this movie. Come on, don't be an idiot to the film. And I said, well, I don't know. It's going to be like Raging Bull against Rocky the Italian Flying Squirrel. I don't know. I didn't know how they were going to sell this movie. But he convinced me, and then I realized, it's great to be able to take these two characters and bring them back in whatever form, and just, just the actual experience of seeing them in the ring, it's never going to happen again. So you were right for once.
Robert, why were you so keen to get Sylvester and you together?
Well, I mean, the only way the movie would work is if we did it, and if Sylvester wasn't part of it, then there'd be no reason. And everybody realized that, because Pete and I had a conversation at a party a few years ago, and you mentioned the story and all that, and even then, we didn't talk about Sylvester, but I knew that it...
Yeah, but who did they talk about? I've been asking
No.
you. Was it Robin Williams? Who was it? I don't know.
But,
That's the secret here.
There's a host of fighters here, former world champions, 3 Olympic gold medalists, including 6 who are going to kick off the questions. There's heavyweight Anthony Joshua, lightweight Luke Campbell, the little darling of the Olympics, Nicola Adams, Darren Barker, his own Rocky story, brought him a treasured world title last year. Sheffield's unbeaten Kell Brook is here as well. Hopefully this is your year to become a world champion. And first up, let's bring the super middleweight star, who certainly made his name, didn't he, in 2013, George Groves, right in the middle of our biggest boxing grudge match at the moment. George, come on up.
Big fan. Really big fan. Question is, favourite all-time grudge matches in boxing?
Oh boy, to me it has to be in heavyweights. I think in every division has them, but for heavyweights it has to be the Ali Fraser thing, because I knew both of them really well. Actually, I was going to use Fraser in one of the Rockies, and in 11 seconds, that included the entire fight and the count. He came across the ring, bang, and it was it. I don't think I want to use an actor instead. I think the Gatti Gordon, there was one recently, there was, what was it, a fantastic war we saw with 2 Hispanic fighters were just fantastic. So it just keeps evolving. You guys are going to end up doing your own classics soon. But, when you're sitting here under the lights, under the pressure, all of a sudden your brain goes, ow.
for me,
Yeah.
I guess I would say the one that I'm the most aware of is the Duran-Leonard fights. Because I'm playing now Ray Arcel, Duran's trainer. He was his trainer. I'm doing that. Hands of Stone. Hands of Stone. So.
Right.
And, but they were great fights. Second one.
Yeah, I think in the Pacquiao thing, the last one, was just that grudge match is pretty serious too. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, George. Let's bring our Olympic super heavyweight gold medalist up. He's going to have a big year this year. Anthony Joshua.
Good afternoon. The question I have is Jake LaMotta versus Rocky Balboa. Who do you think will win?
Only because I'm writing the script. I don't know. Rocky would have a real tough time against a real life Jake LaMotta. My God. Yeah, so I can't guarantee that. But the people always say that. It'd be interesting because one's a heavyweight, one's a middleweight. But my money's on Jake. My money's always on the real fighter.
All right, then, guys. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Let's bring up another Olympic gold medalist, the lightning lightweight Luke Campbell.
Question to both of you. Obviously, you've made so many classic boxing films, but will you be more privileged in sharing the ring with?
Oh my God! For actual fighters, because
yeah,
I did
obviously training for.
Well, believe it or not, I had sparred with Duran, I sparred with Ken Norton, and I sparred with Ernie Shavers, who promised not to hit me in the head, but he hit me in the shoulder, literally knocked me across the ring and out of a shot. It was a wide angle, and I did it. It was unbelievable. And so I've had the misfortune of sparring with some really good guys, and they were going light on me. Don't get me wrong. One guy actually got in the ring with 22-ounce clubs, and it still hurt. But I have tremendous respect for the fighters, and I always tell people, it's one thing, movies is one thing. When you get in the like the worst heavyweight in the world, he's going to murder you. You know what I mean? You're an actor, and you just can appreciate the skill and the pain and the suffering, and also the glory and the amount of skill that goes into what you do. That's why I love the sport so much. Your turn.
Yeah, no, exactly what Sylvester said. It's like, I have great respect for fighters. It looks easy, it's not. It's like, not nice to get hit. And over, and make it your profession. I have great respect.
So Jake didn't hit you one time?
No.
Now,
No, he did. He hit me when he was trying to get me.
He didn't let me slip one in there. Wow. I'll do it for him.
Thank you.
Thanks, Luke. Next up, she was the darling, wasn't she, of the Olympics in 2012, Nicola Adams.
My question's for Robert. Is this the first time you've laced up the gloves since you filmed The Raging Bull?
Yeah, I mean, from time to time I would just train for the sake of it, but, and actually when I started with the movie with Sylvester, he had a great trainer, a guy named Rob Sally, who trained me, and he's been working with for about 10 years, and he taught me the choreography that Sylvester created, and he was just terrific, inspiring, this guy. He doesn't like me to stay.
I know. I won't be able to hire him anymore. He'd be too expensive. He was the worst trainer I've ever seen, ever. No, but it was great, because it's funny. He did. It's 30 years later, put on the gloves, and there's a lot at stake because it's such a great movie, and then you wonder how this is going to work out. And you also have to choreograph this fight. We're using, actually, the gloves would be illegal. I think you're not allowed to use 8 ounces in light heavyweight, are you? I think it's, yeah. So we're bringing out the good stuff. If you're looking at the real firepower stuff. Every now and then you get nicked by accident. Even with an 8-ounce glove, my God, it's like being hit with a frying pan. Are you kidding me? But he got right back into it. It was like riding a bicycle. You know, he just couldn't wait to punch me. Why is that?
No, he's been in it so much that he's used to saying he'll hit me, but I'm like very,
Don't want to get there.
Thanks, Nicola. Let's bring up Kell Brook, who will be fighting for the World Welterweight title some point in 2014.
Mind for training for this fight, what will rivalry like? We're both trying to outdo each other in training for this film.
Well, when I was training, I was training in New York, and Sylvester was in LA, and then finally we got together in New Orleans. But he just came in and took over the whole thing.
I couldn't wait to get him in the ring. It was like, oh, finally.
But this
Finally.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was good.
It was good, yeah. But yeah, we were training. I was training really hard because I really wanted to beat up Jake LaMotta. And, but he came ready, and it was pretty stout. I was, for example, a lot of guys don't really, the canvas was, we made it really, really thin as fast as we could, like it was almost on wood. It's like, because a lot of people don't realize a lot of fighters have to fight on very, very soft canvases that can get to your legs after a while. So we said, let's make it almost like an ice skating rink so we get around easier. So we started to spar a little bit, and I saw that his best movements are very much like it was in Jake LaMotta, and Rocky is that same kind of fighter, but I prefer to back up, actually counterpunch for real. So we decided this time, let him be the Rocky-esque Jake LaMotta, let him come forward, and I'd be the one always trying to slip and do my best. But I didn't realize that takes a lot of energy, Jesus. But that's how we finally got our styles together, and we just pursued it from there. Thanks.
Thanks, Kell. Let's bring up a fighter we all know, won the world middleweight title out in the States last year. A real Rocky story himself. Darren Barker.
Question for both of you. When and what sparked your interest in boxing?
Well, do you want to start first?
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, I'm not into boxing as much as Sylvester is, but I've always been interested since I was a kid, watching boxers. And LaMotta, I would see around, he was like a bouncer in a club that I'd see him from time to time. And that's actually, then when the book was sent to me, I had something, I connected to him. And what amazed me was that he was so out of shape, not out of shape, just overweight. So that was
mine's a little more dramatic. It was traumatic too. I was in school and there was this big bully and he was coming after me and then I just started to move around and I just was starting to pepper him. I mean, like bang, 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 bang. And I went, wow, I like this. And in other words, I actually always had a feeling for boxing and then I just became a school bully until someone bigger came on and beat me up. But it was always an affinity. So I started to really study the sport because I'm not overly gifted in anything. I just understand the dynamics of it and the counter and the science and the physics of it about angles. So I'm enamored with it. I mean, I'm surprised I didn't end up marrying a referee. You know what I mean? I really like this sport a great deal.
Thank you.
Thanks very much, Darren. Before I open it up to the floor, I just want to ask Peter, what was it like working with these two, obviously, film legends? How different are they as people and as boxers?
Well, I think both these guys are very different than you think they would be. I think Sly has a great sense of humor, and Bob is shy. And go figure. But together, what? You know, I know it's shocking.
Come on, I don't believe it.
But you know, obviously their film legacy is so tremendous that having them together. I just have to say, the first time that they came to New Orleans and they set foot into the same ring, I was not a director that day. I was a kid. I just took out my cell phone and started taking pictures. It was just great.
I think a lot of us are kids today. Can I open the floor? Any questions? Oh, lots. Okay, let's start in the front row.
How active, in Grudge match, the publicity was fueled via the internet. How active are Mr. De Niro and Mr. Stallone on the personal level using social media?
Every time I use social media, I get really in trouble. I think George Clooney said it best, like, you know, you gotta be an idiot if you're a celebrity, you use Twitter, then you wake up in the morning when you're sober and you realize your career is over. and it's coming close. So, you know what I mean? You gotta be really, really careful. You think you're a genius up there in the middle of the night. And you wake up an idiot. So, I'm just really basically with the iPhone and learn. I think I figured out how the camera works. I keep it pretty simple. They keep saying, well, to get an Instagram. Isn't it for like younger people, Instagram? Like pervs? Like pervs? Here we are at the hospital getting our back checked. Here we are. You know, like dialysis. Here we are. That's really kind of cool. So the answer for me is pretty primitive. I'm almost like a chalkboard. I'm pretty simple.
Thanks.
And you?
Me, no, I'm not. I mean, I can email, text, that's it.
I'm going to text you right now. I'll see. See you now.
Mr. Stallone, how do you feel about acting in a film where you haven't scripted it and you're not directing it?
Very good question. Well, it's kind of like being a pilot in a plane and you hit turbulence, but you're the passenger. You go, can I get in the cockpit for a second and see, you know? And then after you realize that the pilot is pretty good, you sit back and relax, and it's almost a vacation to actually have a great script, have a great director, have a great co-star. But it happens very rarely. Usually with a director you're not sure of, you're with an actor, you can barely stand, or you don't talk to. Yeah, you know what I'm talking about. You know what I mean? It's just, you have no communication. He actually yells cut, and then you run. There's just literally no communication. So it's very, very rare when it happens. It happened, actually, again, at Coppola, it happened this time. So it's only happened 2 or 3 times after, I don't know how many films I've done, but it's very rare, and I enjoy it.
Thank you.
Second row.
It's a question for Peter. There's a cameo in the end credits, and I don't want to ruin it for audiences, but I do want to know, how did you get those two guys in a room together? And Sylvester, as a big boxing fan, did you want to be on set that day?
I know. The truth is, they did that at literally 5 o'clock in the morning, so I was going, I like them, but not that much.
The scheduling reasons, we had to do that incredibly early. So not only was, you know, the atmosphere on the set that day electric, no one knew what was going to happen, you know, about putting these two guys in the same room after all those years and what happened. And so it was one day that waking up at 4 in the morning was a pleasure because everyone brought gloves to be signed. Everyone was waiting with their cell phones ready, you know, in camera mode, talking about what we were just doing. And boy, I couldn't be more impressed with how prepared they were. They showed up on time. There were just handshakes and smiles. I don't know what they were thinking inside, but outside they were very cordial.